Welcome to your astrological forecast for the week of Monday, September 5th through Sunday, September 11th, 2022. So I'm going to throw a few things at you for this week here. So this week we have a full moon in Pisces, we have Venus moving into Virgo, and we have Mercury turning retrograde. And I'm actually just going to connect the dots for you between all three of those, among other things that are happening this week. And really, I think the common thread that links everything right now is rest and integration. That's what Virgo is about. That's what the Virgo Pisces axis is about. And that's what we would explore with the full moon in Pisces. Even Mercury turning retrograde, all of this points to integrating, processing things. So a lot of this has to do with rest. Now, of course, this is Virgo season. There's a lot of Virgo energy. So a lot of this also has to do with processing things in terms of organizing, making sure we have all our ducks in a row. Everything is, kind of tidy and neat. We're preparing ourselves, basically. And those of you who are listening to these forecasts every week, you'll know what we're preparing for. We're preparing for stuff to get really wild come November and late October. So this is your chance right now for the next, definitely this week, maybe the following weeks as well. But, time is kind of ticking. I don't want to, make this stressful or anything, but this is your chance to process, integrate, maybe rest if you can. It's all about processing and integration. So definitely organizing, making sure everything, all your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed, but also just giving your chance to, take a breath and relax if you can right now, because this is really imperative. When you're resting, you're not just doing nothing. You're processing the last active phase, and then you're also getting ready for the next active phase. I think those of us that are really immersed in astrology are more attuned to these cycles. We're constantly going back and forth between an active phase and then a restful phase. Active and then restful, active then restful. So this is your kind of resting phase before the much more active phase that will come in October and November. So let's get into it here. Let's get into the day by day for the week. So we start out, let me give a pause for the timestamps. So we start out on Monday, September 5th, and Venus moves into Virgo. Venus leaves Leo, enters Virgo. So this is, of course, a big deal. It suggests that our priorities, our desires are shifting from Leo to Virgo. So organizing and integrating, all that stuff that I just talked about will become more desirable. That's where our needs, our wants are more focused to. This is more challenging because Venus is in fall in Virgo. So this is actually potentially the most difficult Venus placement, the most challenging one for us to experience. Now, of course, more specifically, on an individual level, how you embrace this energy will depend on your own personal chart. Where does Virgo fall in your chart? Because wherever that is, Venus is shedding some abundance and, light and pleasure in that area for you. So if you, are very accustomed to Virgo energy, if you have a lot of Virgo energy in your chart, this will be easy for you. You'll actually get a boost of, positivity and abundance. But for us as a collective, as a whole, Venus and Virgo it's debilitated, it's challenging, and Venus has to do a lot with, it has to do with pleasure and abundance. And in our kind of human, 3D life or essence, what pleasure ends up being a lot about, it's partially about how we support ourselves. Venus has to do with how we support ourselves. So it ends up being pretty much about relationships and money, because I guess those are where we have the most pleasure. And those are also how we support ourselves, if that makes sense. So Venus being debilitated in Virgo, it could indicate some potential challenges with how we support ourselves, especially on a collective level. So I am just a tiny bit weary about this because, as many of you probably know, the world economics have been in a state of transition, let's just say. That's a very positive way to put it, I think. Things are looking, intimidating, just because so much is changing, and some of that may be challenging in the near future. So Venus and Virgo could, bring about more of that, more challenges with kind of global finances, things of that nature. But on a more day-to-day level, we start out Monday with with Moon in Capricorn. So I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but Moon in Capricorn is also debilitated. It's in detriment. So this is more challenging too. But this also has to do with preparing for the future as well. So that's where you have so many indicators here. This is one common thread between Virgo and Capricorn too. These are both earth signs that we're dealing with right now. Both Virgo and Capricorn are all about preparing for the future. So that's really, what this focus is, especially on Monday here. So it's not really the best time for, having fun, goofing off, or being wild, or, spending a bunch right now. It's really about kind of just, I feel like there's a saying for this, but more about just kind of like putting your head down, going to work. I know that's not the most fun message to deliver for sure, but it's Virgo Sun, Virgo Venus, and then Capricorn Moon here. These are the dominant energies that are like really defining the start of the week here. So I don't think it has to be a bad thing. If we, adjust our expectations and we know, this is just about preparation. It's about maybe being a little bit serious and just making sure we're prepared for the future, that type of thing. That's really what Monday is all about. Moving forward to Tuesday, September 6th, Moon will actually leave Capricorn and enter Aquarius, but it's very late. So it's almost midnight that this happens. So don't sue me if Moon enters Aquarius technically on Wednesday, September 7th, where you are. It depends on your time zone, of course. But for most of us, especially in the United States, we will have Moon in Capricorn basically all day Tuesday as well. So this continues a lot of the same themes from Monday. Moon is in detriment in Capricorn. The only reason it's just, it's a more challenging energy because Moon represents how we feel in the current moment. And Capricorn isn't focused on the current moment. Capricorn's more focused on sacrificing its immediate comfort for future comfort. So it's working for the long term. Capricorn is very goal oriented. So that's why Moon has a hard time there. We can't necessarily just focus on how we feel in the moment on Monday and Tuesday this week. You may want to do something. You may want to, be more lazy or just enjoy the current moment, but that's really not what these energies are about. I hate delivering these messages because they're not, really fun. It's not bubbly kind of stuff. But I do want to stress that it's also not super dark either. It's just that it's about preparing for the future. So yes, you may have to be maybe slightly uncomfortable, but I think there's a sense of deep comfort just knowing that you're prepared, knowing that you've taken stock of what you have going on in your life, and that you're processing things, you've caught up on integrating things. That's kind of the focus. So it is rewarding, just in a more deep, kind of slow sort of way. There is a lot of gratification there, but it's these are earth signs. These are more slow energies. I think these are just hard for us because in our society we're so used to having everything fast. We want instant gratification. Everything has to be entertaining and really obvious, and that's just not how the world always is. That's not how these cycles work in astrology. These are a lot of earth energies that we're dealing with at the start of the week. So these are more about being productive, working, and resting as well. Earth signs are very productive, but Earth is also a yin phase. This is a slower, heavier energy, so it also has to do with rest too. Okay, and I think I kind of covered it for Tuesday. That's the main thing going on. Moon also crosses over Pluto. Of course, any planet going through Capricorn has to do that, although Pluto will enter Aquarius early next year, so that'll be exciting. But for Tuesday, there could also be some added intensity and heaviness from Moon crossing over Pluto as well. And it looks like that would happen in the evening Eastern Standard Time. So in short, definitely some heavier energies, but as long as you are working for the long term, you can definitely make the most of this. And I don't know, it can be rewarding. It can, I don't know if I'd say fun, but it can definitely be pleasurable, so to speak. Moving forward to Wednesday, September 7th, Moon enters Aquarius. So this does, mix things up a little bit. Moon will be in Aquarius all day, depending on your time zone for Wednesday. And this is a little bit similar, especially because Moon is crossing through the area between Pluto and Saturn. So this is a more heavy area. Technically, Pluto is no longer in detriment, But Aquarius is, I think, a more challenging sign for the moon. It's still ruled by Saturn, so there's still a lot of themes, just like Moon in Capricorn, that we're dealing with on Wednesday when Moon is in Aquarius. So we're still having to focus more on the long term. That's something that, Virgo and Aquarius have in common. We have Virgo Sun today and then Moon in Aquarius. These are two very, very different energies, but one common thread is that both Virgo and Aquarius are problem solvers. They're fixers. They want to improve things. So that again is the focus on Wednesday as well. We're focusing on improving ourselves, improving our circumstances, thinking about the future. Kind of projecting, planning. That's also something in common between Virgo and Aquarius. Aquarius is so future oriented, kind of goal oriented. Aquarius has to do with aspirations, and then Virgo is all about planning. So still, we have a lot of the same themes that I've been talking about. This is a huge preparation type of portal or era chapter that we're going through, if that makes sense. Moon does trine Mercury today on Wednesday, so I think that would be really nice for communication. Especially because Moon is in an air sign, Mercury's in an air sign. These are very kind of socially oriented energies. So although we may be dealing with some heavier energies, it's also easy today to speak our minds, to communicate very effectively. And I think this will be even more true if we are kind of entertaining this mentality of planning and strategizing and being maybe more decisive or strategic. I think that can maybe create some kind of clarity where we can communicate very effectively today. This is also really great just because Mercury is turning retrograde. Mercury's pretty much stationary. There is a phase where Mercury's pretty much not moving at all before Mercury turns retrograde, if that makes sense. So in other words, this week as Mercury is preparing to go retrograde, it doesn't just suddenly stop going direct and then, start moving backward from our perception. It slows down, basically stops, and then slowly starts moving backward. So my point is Wednesday, Mercury's barely not moving at all. So as the moon trines Mercury right before it turns retrograde, there's like this added weight to our communication. So I think be especially mindful on Wednesday of any kind of messages you receive. I think that could be intuitive. This will be more like mentally oriented intuition, not so much feeling based, although it could be that too, but I would expect it to be more cerebral. It could also just be, any kind of information you come across, or I'll just leave it at that. Any kind of information you come across on Wednesday, pay special attention to that, because with Mercury basically stationary, there's added weight to our communication. Our words have more impact today. The information has more impact. It may be more meaningful. It may be more influential to our kind of path right now, the information we come across. So just pay attention to that for sure. Let's go forward to Thursday, September 8th. So late on Thursday, Eastern Standard Time, Moon does enter Pisces. Typically, I would say this would kind of lighten things up a little bit, but you have to remember that we're preparing for the full moon. Moon is gaining more light. It's pretty much full now. It's looking like it's full in the sky at this point. We can already feel that increased intensity. Usually, there's more action. People, children, animals are all up like later at night, right around the full moon. So I would expect that even as early as Thursday, you'll be able to kind of experience that added intensity. I think this will be especially kind of crazy with Moon even entering Pisces, even late on Thursday, just because, Pisces can be a very wild sign. Really just getting into different intuition and different energies and vibes, and Pisces is so open to so many different experiences, and with us all kind of experiencing that energy at the same time, I think it can get a really crazy. The Virgo Pisces axis has to do with reality and, different realities, different ways of perceiving things. So it's almost like we all kind of enter this fog where we're all sort of in our own world when we experience Pisces energies. And especially with the moon being so full, full moons typically revolve around energies like this too. Full moons can make us a little bit wild, a little bit crazy, a little bit in our own minds, so to speak, and feelings, feeling a lot more. So yeah, so I think things take definitely an interesting turn late on Thursday. Um, I'm just gonna leave it at that. I'll let you kind of ruminate on that. Friday, September 9th, Mercury turns retrograde at 8 degrees Libra. It's not indicating here quite yet noon Eastern Standard Time, but it will turn retrograde in the latter half of the day here. I think this is really interesting. It's an interesting sign for Mercury to turn retrograde in because Libra is already. I think Libra already kind of embodies some Mercury retrograde energies just naturally because Libra is all about weighing different things, weighing the pros and cons, weighing two different sides of things, weighing different opinions and such. So with Mercury turning retrograde here, it really just symbolizes us having to integrate, having to process things. Things may have happened over the last couple of weeks that you may have not fully integrated. So this may be showing that we have to go back and what happened over that last period here. Is there anything that we need to go back over and learn more from before we continue? Mercury retrograde phases are also, of course, famous for exes coming back into your life. Really, anyone from your past at all. It could be like a friend you haven't talked to. Family members, of course, are from your past as well. So it could be more time just meeting family or more activity there. You can look forward to all of that. For more specific information, look to where Libra falls in your chart and look to where the last few degrees of Virgo fall in your chart as well, because Mercury is turning retrograde, and it will actually enter Virgo the week after next week. So it will retrograde backward and go back into Virgo. So this shows that we have some unfinished business in Virgo. So where does Virgo fall in your chart? That's where you may have something that you left behind, something you maybe weren't paying enough attention to, or that almost sounds judgmental, so I don't want to phrase it like that really, but it just shows that there may be something we, have yet to pick up on in the Virgo area, especially the last few degrees of Virgo. So in short, a lot of these themes are similar. You'll hear me kind of repeating myself for this forecast. It has to do with integration. I know a lot of people don't like Mercury retrograde periods, but that's really what it's all about. It's an opportunity to go back and reflect. Mercury retrograde also boosts our intuition. If you're a writer, if you're an artist, if you are interested in spirituality or metaphysics, all of these things are easier to tap into during a Mercury retrograde phase. I almost said retrograde. I combined Mercury and retrograde, but it's true. It really is. So even if you're not accustomed to this type of energy, the intuition is very much, much more easy to access at this time. So there are a lot of great opportunities here. I think the only reason why Mercury retrograde is such a burden for so many of us is because we have set schedules that don't revolve around astrology. So if you're expected to be very productive and to do things in a very linear, straightforward way, if you're not allowed a period of rest right now or reflection or integration, then yeah, Mercury retrograde is going to be, a monkey wrench thrown into the system or whatever. I feel like there's a saying there. You get what I'm saying. So yes, it can be very dysfunctional. I really don't think it has to be, though. If you allow yourself to pause, reflect, unwind, just clear your mind and see what comes there. If you can meditate or, like I said, read, write, create some kind of art or something, that's where, that's what Mercury retrograde is supporting us in doing right now and for the next few weeks here. And Mercury will stay retrograde until October 1st, just FYI. So basically the rest of the month here. Last thing I'll say about that before I continue, Mercury is in Libra. So, before Mercury enters Virgo, for the next couple weeks, Mercury will be retrograding through Libra. So Libra has to do with relationships, one-on-one relationships. So yes, that has to do with romantic relationships, but it also has to do with any kind of partnership, any kind of one-on-one partnership or relationship. So who are your kind of partners, so to speak, romantic or otherwise? Do you have like a business partner? Do you have a best friend or a sibling that you do a lot with? There may be something with that partnership or with different partnerships that like there may be extra information or awareness that comes to you regarding those relationships over the next few weeks while Mercury's retrograde, especially while Mercury's retrograde in Libra, if that makes sense. All right, I'm going to go forward. So for Saturday, September 10th, we do have that full moon in Pisces. And it will actually be at 17 degrees Pisces, so it looks like morning Eastern Standard Time. It doesn't have a whole lot of exact aspects, which I think is good. Less aspects is not a bad thing. It just means, there's less intensity, kind of. So I definitely don't think that's a bad thing right now for us. Like I said before, there are less aspects in general for the month of September, and that is yet another thing that points to rest and reflection and, a period of relative inactivity before things heat up, in the next couple months here. There are a couple aspects though. So the full moon in Pisces, it does make a sextile to Uranus at 18 degrees Taurus. I think Uranus, especially the last few months, has really had a lot to do with these sudden changes, especially in our economic system and our financial system, our economy, and things kind of taking a different turn. Since Uranus has been retrograde recently, so there could definitely be some symbolism there. That's really the main thing. I mean, the full moon trines Lilith, but Lilith is not a physical body, so many astrologers would say aspects to Lilith actually don't even count. Depends on your view on that, I guess. But the sextile to Uranus is the main thing. So this may kind of ease us a little bit into this transition. Sextiles are harmonious aspects. They're complementary. Uranus is trining the sun and sextiling the moon right now. So these are all harmonious energies. So yes, things are changing. Things are very volatile. That can be very scary for us. We prefer stability, especially in Taurus type of themes, like our economy, how we support ourselves, our relationships, etc. But, change doesn't have to be bad necessarily. Moon is in Pisces, which I think is indicating, the best way to be right now is to be a little bit like Pisces. So be very open right now if you can. Be very adaptable. Pisces doesn't have a lot of expectations that it asserts on the world usually. Pisces is more go with the flow, very adaptable. It's the fish. It has little to no structure to it, and that allows it to kind of slip through the cracks to go anywhere. Pisces is water. It can slip through your fingers. It can kind of change and transform. So that's kind of the best way to be right now, so to speak. Even Virgo, I know a lot of people don't view Virgo that way. Virgo can be very stubborn. It's very routine oriented. I definitely understand all that. But Virgo is a mutable sign too. The moon is opposing the Virgo sun. We're dealing with themes of, not just the Pisces moon, but also Virgo sun. Full moons it's just an opposition between the moon and the sun. So it's not just about the full moon, it's also about the sun and Virgo as well. So the shared commonalities here is that both of these signs are very adaptable. And then like I alluded to previously, both of these signs have to do with integration. Pisces is the last sign of the entire zodiac, and Virgo is the last sign of the first half or the first hemisphere of the zodiac. So being these kind of last signs, they're very transitional. This shows that we are in a transitional phase right now. But it's also supporting us in integrating. The things that you can do that really align with both Virgo and Pisces are usually things that are, a lot of times doing things with your hands. I've given this spiel a million times, but I really want to give it again because it's a really important message to get across. This is vital for your intuition. It's vital for these more active phases that will come later, because you have to allow yourself to get offline sometimes, pun intended, literally as well as figuratively. You have to allow yourself to get offline at times in order to go within yourself, within your own mind, get that creativity, get that kind of spark that comes. And then with that, then comes the external, the yang, the active phase later. You have to connect to the subconscious. Well, you don't have to, but it's the best way to get that I don't know how to put it into words, that really great inspiration, that great idea, that great feeling or whatever. And then later, that's when you apply that and create something out of it in the yang, in the active phase. So in short, during this full moon, it's tricky because this period is more about rest and reflection, but full moons are active. This is a time to, get out there and do something more so. So I really would say doing something like spiritual nature would be great, like even meditating, doing something artistic, doing something with your hands, like doing something creative, reading, writing, creating some kind of art, even like household chores. And I know this is not the sexiest message to deliver by any means, but these kind of mundane Virgo type activities of cooking, gardening, cleaning, organizing. I think even writing kind of falls into this a little bit. All of these things allow your mind to kind of rest. You can just get into the rhythm of it, and I think it's very therapeutic to just create something with your hands and allow your mind to kind of rest as you do that. I don't personally like knit, sew, or make pottery. I don't really do anything like that personally, but I really support people who do, because all that is really excellent, because these are the types of activities that help you intuitively. This is what helps you integrate, and in doing so, that's what builds your intuition. If you're not the most artsy kind of person, you can also just go for a walk. If you're doing something physical like working out, or I don't know, if you're athletic, like sports are great for this. I think everyone has something that they can relate to, something like this, like any sport, like golfing. It could be a lot of different things. But hopefully that makes sense to you. Something like that, something where you can kind of get into the zone, so to speak, and forget yourself for a second, is really great for allowing your mind to relax and building that intuition. And then the last thing I'll say about that is, that's going to be the key to these more active phases, not only later this year, but also in the years to come. In the last half of this decade, we have a lot of fire and air energy. So if we want to expand this even further, we're in a much longer phase of, putting the pressure on ourselves, getting ready for it to hit the fan later this decade. And Sunday, September 11th, we wrap up this week. This has been a little bit of a shorter forecast. I try to keep them short because it's really easy for me to just keep babbling forever. But Sunday, we do have Moon leaving Pisces and entering Aries. So that does kind of abruptly shift things, Moon in Pisces is so different from Aries. We're starting a new cycle. We go from Saturday, which is all about integration and resting and all that stuff I just talked about. And then we shift to Moon in Aries early on Sunday. So suddenly the focus is a little bit more active. We still have a lot of these resting and organizing, these Virgo energies in the background. But for the next couple of days, we do have Moon in Aries. So this is supporting us in being more physically active or more outgoing, maybe starting some kind of project. I still think this will have a lot to do with organizing or planning, but maybe this can be a more productive part of that. So I don't know, if you have like a big job around your house or something, like a task you've been putting off, Sunday would be a great day to do it if you have the time, I think. Especially with Moon crossing over Jupiter, we're going to really have that extra fire, that motivation, that inspiration to maybe get something done, especially if it helps us feel more prepared, or, prepare for the future in some way. Also, to add to all of that, we do have one imperfect aspect. Mercury trines Mars. It's off by 4 degrees, but this aspect will never technically happen. It gets very close because Mercury's turning retrograde right now, so it won't, get to the point that it would need to be at to exactly trine Mars. But it gets close enough that we will experience this to some degree. It is 4 degrees away. So Mercury trining Mars, I think this also adds to what I was just saying about, getting extra motivated to get a job done, to get organized, to be productive. Mercury wants to be organized and, wants all the details taken care of. And with this, really strong, positive, easy trine to Mars, we're also incorporating this ambition, this fiery energy from Mars. This trine is happening in air signs, Mercury in Libra, Mars in Gemini. So we may be more focused socially, so maybe more socially active, more talkative. This is especially interesting, though, considering that Mercury just turned retrograde. So I would say this may be where people from your past just kind of randomly pop up. Mercury's just freshly retrograde. We have this, Mercury trining Mars imperfectly in the air signs. So maybe, I would pay special attention to your conversations today. There may be strange conversations or maybe issues from the past coming up, you know, good or bad. But that's what this is all about. That's what Mercury retrograde is all about. It's about clearing the air, you know, anything you put off from before, any kind of baggage. This is the time to get it out, deal with it, and then that's where we can move on and move into new territory once Mercury goes direct in October. So that's what I have for you this week. You know, it's these themes this week are definitely not the most fun or crazy or entertaining to talk about, but this is a very necessary phase, I think, you know. So I hope I kind of outlined that for you in a way that was tangible. Next week, we do have a third quarter moon in Gemini, and then Mercury continues to be retrograde. To be totally honest with you, there are not a lot of aspects happening next week. I'm even considering taking next week off. I'm not sure about that. But Mercury is retrograde. As you know, people who follow me a lot, you'll know that I am very tied in with Mercurian cycles. As I'm making this forecast, Mercury is not retrograde yet. So I myself may be a little bit more offline or a little bit less active while Mercury's in retrograde, especially for this first week or two here. So I'm not sure yet. I may take next week off, but the week after that, I'll definitely be here because that's where things get a little more wild. The sun will enter Libra, Mercury retrograde will enter Virgo, and the sun will conjoin Mercury. And we'll have a new moon in Libra. So stay tuned. I hope this helps you as always, and I hope you have a great day and a great week. Definitely don't take this too seriously. Don't take any of this too seriously. Like, you know, this is a really great time to prepare. You know, it's a heavy energy and all that, but you know, I just don't want you to be stressed or anything. You know, it's there's no pressure. Things are gonna get wild, but I think this will be an opportunity for us. Anyway, I'll leave it at that, and I look forward to talking to you later. Have a great day.